Don't count on the spring market for condos in the GTA. And here's why. Hi everyone, Ian here. So everybody has had a tough 2024 and there's a lot of sellers really wants to get rid of their stale condo listings. It's been on the market for a while. And there's more and more renewals for mortgage coming up and there's more investors wants to offload their inventory. And every year in the spring, usually there's a strong market that helps to existing listings for a better price, such as myself. Like I sold a condo of my own this year in like January 2024. I sold it for a record-breaking price, right? It was like a little over 700 square feet in downtown. I sold it for almost $900,000. Still, that's the best record in the building. And had I not sold it in January this year, I would not have had a chance to sell it anytime later on for a better price. It still remains the highest sales record. So a lot of people are counting on next year, 2025 spring market having a good year, right? For condos, at least a few months of activities to clear out the remaining inventories. And I'm here to share with you that while the market may be a little bit busier in the spring, I personally remain pessimistic about the condo market. For detached or freehold in general, I am a bit more optimistic, right? I'll share you why in a later video. But today we focus on condos and I'll share you some data why I do not think the spring market will be very satisfactory or it could be disappointing if you're counting on better market to clear your inventory. So let's take a look at the chart. Here's the active listings, number of active listings for condos, okay, in the GTA. And you can see that right now we have 8157, like 8,200 existing active listings in the GTA. And that is the highest level of active listings, which is inventory in the history of Toronto market, right? We've never had this many condos on the market at the same time. Even in 2020, remember when COVID hits and the second half of 2020 is when everything was locked down, people were running away from downtown. People do not like condos because condos are not very quarantine friendly, right? People are too close together in the building. People want to, buy detached homes to stay away from people, right? So everybody was not buying or not renting condos. And even back then, the inventory was actually lower than where we have right now. And the second highest level of inventory, third highest is actually last year, 2023. Remember, we had a very slow fall market and the inventory was high. But it was not as high as right now, right? Right now we have 8,200. Last year, this time, we had 6,600. So last year was still less. And you can see the reason every spring market has a busier market is because the inventory level drops, right? During Christmas. During December, every year, there's a seasonality that drops down the inventory level, which makes sense. A lot of the sellers for any type of property, not just condos, most of them are still end users, right? Like somebody's living in it, or even investors, like there's a tenant living in the condo. So it's very inconvenient for owners or tenants to vacate the property in December, whether you ask them to move out or you ask them to even accommodate the showings. Like when somebody book a showing, hey, go somewhere else for half an hour to an hour to accommodate for that showing. During Christmas, it becomes increasingly difficult, right? For many, many reasons. Most people want to have a relaxing and not get bothered during holidays. So most times the inventory level drops. And when inventory drops, right, it trickles down to January. So you can see that's why January in general every year, it has the lowest level of inventory for that given year. And this has been true for almost like the past 9 or 10 years. So when January and February inventory level were low, and when buyers come out, right, when buyers actually, usually for condos, people are either investor or first-time home buyer, they have New Year resolutions to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be an investor this year. I'm going to buy my first home, right? And then their bonus actually arrives in January and February, right? From last year, the bonus check arrives. So everybody's excited. So there's a lot of buyers actually wants to get in the action in the spring. So that's why when these buyers come out and when there's not enough inventories, the market becomes hotter. Even last year, you can see that 2023, we had by the end of December, the inventory dropped down to 4,500. And by January 2024, right, we had 4,693 condos for sale, right? Very similar to the end of December level, right, in January. So you can see kind of December low inventory carries forward to January. And that's why we had a busier market, right, in January because the inventory level is low and buyers come out, there's less choices. But comparing the beginning of the year this year to today, right, we have 8,200. So let's say this December, right, you can see that this inventory drop in November, compared to other years, it's not a steep drop, okay? In my view, it should have dropped down to somewhere here if we're going by seasonality, but it didn't. It actually stayed high at 8,200 level, right? I was guessing it should have dropped down to like maybe 8,000 or 7,800, but it didn't, right? So at this rate for December this year, we're likely going to be dropping down to somewhere here. And let's call this like 7,000 or maybe like 6,500 level, right? Which is, still quite high. So this is where our January 25 is going to be in terms of inventory. Unless something magical happens, right? It's a Christmas wonder, Christmas miracle that inventory just dropped down to the floor, like all the way down, right? To like 5,000 or below. Then we're going to have a much better new year. But right now, if based on seasonality, we just dropped down to like 6,000 or 6,500, we're still way above every other year, right? You see the highest level of inventory in January we've had in the past 9 years was 4,700. If we're at like 6,500 the coming January, there's going to be a 2,000 more inventory for condos. So when there's so much more choices, then it's very hard for bidding wars to start again or for buyers to start feeling the FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. They start to compete and start to bid on the price and start to pay more than the last sale record and drive the price up. That becomes more difficult, right? Because your inventory level would be high. So that's the problem. Okay, that's why I don't think condos will have a strong spring market. I mean, do I think it will be more buyers come out? Yes, I do think it will be more, especially with more rate drops. So we are going to have a easier environment for getting financing, mortgages, right? It will be better. If we look at the sales volume, every beginning of the year, right? You can see January, February, it's a big increasing trend, right? So there's more and more buyers coming out. March is the peak of buyers usually, right, in the year. And then it kind of trickles down to a more stable level remainder of the year in terms of number of buyers. This is the sales volume. So it's going to have a good 3 months of more buyers than now. But because our inventory level is going to be higher than previous years we've seen, the competition between these buyers will be less, right? It won't be as hot as even January 2024 when I sold my condo for the great price. I doubt we'll see that same market, okay? I really doubt it because it's a different environment, even though rates are lower, but when you have way more choices, why not, right? And because in this year, we have actually had many pre-construction buildings complete in 2024. So there's a lot of shadow inventory from assignments, right? So there's even more inventory now, and there's more coming up. Next year is going to be a big year for assignment sales, right? Or new building completions. If you look at the chart, this is the average price for currently what we have seen so far is that this year, 2024, the price has been a little below the past 3 years, right? Every other year you can see 2020 is this green line. So we're higher than 2020, right? But we're lower than 2021, 22, and 23. In fact, if I change the view, you can see, let's just take a look at the last 4 years. Here is the average price for condos. And we can see that we have been falling behind the past 3 years. And this is why if you have bought a pre-construction or you bought a condo in the past 4 years, you're likely underwater, right, in terms of pricing. Of course, every area is a little bit different, but this is why we have been challenged, with condo market because there's historically high level of inventory, giving buyer more choices, buyer become pickier, and price goes down. And this is the first time price really came down for condos. In the past, price has been going up, right? If you don't believe me, take a look at this same chart. You can see that the bottom line is 2016. This was the lowest price level, right? January to December. And then next year, 2017, you can see is this line. 2018 is this line. And then 2019 is this red line, right? So you can see price generally goes up every year for condos because it's the most affordable option, right? There's actually a lot of demand for it. And then 2020, COVID, was the first year that it went down below the previous year, right? And then 2021, it had a big jump up to this blue line, right? And then 2022, it had an even bigger jump to the peak of the market. And then the rates start hiking and it start dropping in price. So 23, it was more of a stagnant year, this orange line, which went below the 2021 and 22 level. and followed by this year. You can see we had a better beginning of the year, but second half of the year, we're actually below the last 3 years average price. So that's the history for condos, and that's how we got here today. So if we look at the different cities, right, it also gives us an idea of how different condos in different areas actually stack up in terms of their activities or their pricing. Like, it gives you a better comparison between the cities. And that's why you can see the condo market has been challenging for the past number of years and is going to continue to be challenging likely for the foreseeable future. So just be aware, right? Be aware. I mean, I do think there will be a busier market in the spring, so make sure you capture those opportunities. But at the same time, be aware, right? Be aware of the current condition so that if you do receive an offer and it's reasonably acceptable, make sure you treat it seriously and really negotiate with the buyer to try to, don't count on like a future magical moment that will sell your condo much, much higher, right? Just try to make the most out of the current situation, understand this, where we're at, and manage your risks. Because I do think, there's a lot of moving parts and unknown variables in the upcoming times, right? Like the economic uncertainties and unemployment rates, like all of these, are part of the factors you should consider, right? Like immigration or visa renewal, like, new rules, new policies, like all these may affect both the rental and the sale market for condos. So just be aware, okay? Just something I want to share with you. And next video, we're going to talk more in depth about the different cities and how the condos in different cities stack up, okay? So stay tuned. Until next time, ciao.